Hello everyone, my name is Regina Romanzetti, and for this week's assignment, I used the Jerry Falwell Library from Liberty University, and I explored the ProQuest historical newspaper databases, focusing on articles from the New York Times. I felt like the New York Times would be the best source for me to use for my topic specifically. I continued my research on Prohibition and Italian-American communities in New York City during the 1920s and early 1930s. I'm continuing my research by not focusing on organized crime, but instead showing how Prohibition impacted everyday life, politics, business, and cultural identity within Italian-American neighborhoods. This assignment was honestly a lot of fun because it felt like I was able to step back in time while reading these articles from the period. It made the research feel more personal and relatable, especially since this topic does hold a near and dear place in my heart, and it connects me to my own family history and interest in Italian-American culture in New York City. While I was using the ProQuest database, I even tried to look up my great-grandfather in the newspaper. His name was Carmine Russo, and he was a business owner in Brooklyn, New York during Prohibition. While I wasn't able to find anything on him, I was really happy with the sources that I did find this week for my assignment. One article I did find was called "Winemakers Seek to Hold Up Dry Law." It discusses an Italian vineyard company trying to resist the enforcement of prohibition laws. Another article by N. Cui says dries delay prosperity. This shows how Italian-American political groups argue that prohibition was not good for the economy. It had a negative, hurtful impact on it. I also used the inside story of Prohibition's adoption to understand why supporters pushed for the law in the first place. In addition, I used Pete Hamil's article, Rage and Thirst, which provides a later reflection on how destructive and complicated Prohibition was in New York City. It wasn't a red light, green light, yes or no thing. There was a lot of politics and political commentary that was made on this topic. During my research, a common theme I did notice in my research is that many Italian Americans viewed Prohibition as harmful to their businesses, cultural, and economic opportunities. One part that specifically stood out to me, especially being Italian American myself, is that this law of Prohibition affected their religious beliefs. Most Italian Americans do practice Catholicism and are Roman Catholic, and wine is part of their religious belief. And without having wine in their Sunday services, they're not able to practice it fully. Many Italian Americans relied on industries like winemaking, restaurants, and small family businesses to have a life. This was directly impacted by these laws of prohibition. This shows that prohibition didn't just affect illegal activity, but also disrupted traditional ways of life and cultural practices within these communities, and it had a negative impact. Overall, these newspaper articles show that prohibition was not just about crime and speakeasy. It also deeply affected immigrant communities, politics, and everyday life. This helped me to better understand how Italian Americans navigated this time period and were able to adapt to new challenges and still maintain their cultural identity in New York City during this time period. Thank you so much.